Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us for Founders Friday. This has been a labor of love. We're very select, truly we are, about who we pick for this because you have to go through a lot of stuff to be successful. I'd like to spend a moment on your bio, if that's okay. Normally, I like the person to introduce himself, but in this regard, it is such an honor to read this bio, and I say that from the bottom of my heart. Chairman of the Board of Veterans Appeal is Cheryl Mason. Cheryl Mason serves as the chairman of the Board of Veterans Appeal, and as chairman, Ms. Mason, Cheryl, leads a team of approximately 1,200 personnel. Cheryl, I have a team of 110, and I'm pulling my hair out, including veterans law judges, attorneys, and operations and administrative professionals who meet the board's mission of conducting hearings and deciding appeals on benefits and services for veterans and their families. Cheryl is accountable for the efficient and effective management of board resources and executing a budget in excess of $190 million. Cheryl, I'm going to have to be much nicer to you in the future. That's amazing. The board is the secretary's designee to decide appeals arising from all three administrations. I did not know this. Veterans Benefits Administration, Veterans Health Administration, and National Cemetery Administration, as well as the Office of the General Counsel. Cheryl, you're the first woman to hold the position of chairman. Prior to assuming her role, Cheryl held several positions at the board, including Deputy Vice Chairman, Veterans Law Judge, and Counsel. Cheryl also serves as an attorney with the Federal Labor Relations Authority, a Department of the Air Force civilian at HQ, United States Air Forces in Europe at Ramstein Air Base, Germany, and as an instructor at Central Texas College in Germany. And yet, you find time to do this and serve on our board of advisors. Oh, Cheryl, let me finish this beautiful bio. Cheryl is the spouse of an Air Force veteran, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force retired, and is the daughter of a World War II Navy veteran who died by suicide. In 2020, Cheryl was named a National Ambassador to the President's Roadmap to Empower Veterans and End the National Tragedy of Suicide, Prevents Task Force, and works to help change the culture and increase awareness surrounding mental health and suicide. Cheryl is also a key leader in the Military Spouse Employment Initiative, working to share best practices to encourage recruiting, hiring, and retention of military spouses to support military readiness as well as transitioning veterans. Originally from Portsmouth, Ohio, Cheryl received her bachelor's with distinction in political science and psychology from Ohio Northern University and her JD from Crichton University Crichton University School of Law. Cheryl began her legal career in private practice in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm going to start right there. Midwestern values.
Yep.
Because I'm from the Midwest. Did that play a role in any of this or all of this?
Well, Deb, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to come and talk to you today. Absolutely. Those Midwestern values, which I still carry with me every day, and I've tried to instill in, my husband and I have both tried to instill in our children, absolutely played a huge role in these positions, but as well as who I am as a person. My mother was a government teacher. And she raised me from the age of 4 by herself in an area with socioeconomic challenges. And she taught me that you had to stand up for yourself because nobody else was going to do that. But you also are true to yourself and you have your integrity, and that's all you got.
Let's start from 4 years old, and I'm truly serious about this. What was it about you, Cheryl, that had this enormous career path? This is an enormous career path.
You
Did
know,
it ever overwhelm you?
when you look back on it, it's enormous. Going
Yes.
through it, it didn't feel enormous. This position, quite frankly, is just an honor and a privilege to serve veterans and their families and survivors every day. So, and I take that, for me, that's really passionate. But from 4 years old, and I guess the driving force was my father's death by suicide, the veteran community rallied around my mom and I. And I thought that was normal. I spent my Friday evenings at the American Legion until I was a certain age where I couldn't go anymore because I was too old and too close to the age of majority. I had my first Shirley Temple at the American Legion. Those veterans and their families, regardless of whether they had served with my father or just were friends, were the ones who really supported us. They were at our house helping my mother or supporting her throughout everything. When other people in the town kept us at arm's length because suicide was scary. They didn't understand. And so I thought that was normal. And then I saw it happen again. My brother died by suicide when I was 17, 2 weeks before I left for college. And he had been an Army reservist. He actually was at boot camp when my father died in 1969. And he went into the reserve because of that. And I saw the community rally around us once again. My family, and in this time the community was not always veterans, only veterans. It was other people in his community, but I saw that, and for me personally, I received veterans benefits, and I went to college using those benefits. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be here today had I not received those veterans benefits. And so for me, it's about taking care of those veterans and their families who were in the situation that my father and my brother and other friends of our family have been in. And I know what the benefits mean to the family members. And, then I ended up marrying my college sweetheart, this guy in the Air Force, and became a military spouse. And that was a whole different challenge, but an opportunity to figure out a path around it.
You know what I hear, Cheryl, is gratitude. I hear gratitude from beginning to end, that the support that you had has never been forgotten in your heart and in your career. In this career, I want to go back to this 1,200 personnel, including veteran law judges, attorneys, and operations and administrative professionals. Can you tell us the day in the life of Chairman Mason?
Well, it varies by day to day. Every day I come in with thinking I'm going to do certain things, and sometimes I get to do some of those. But usually there's other things that pop up. For instance, this morning when I got in with a little bit of black ice, coming into DC this morning with a few accidents by the time I got to the office, I had several emails about issues resolving around how we serve our veterans and taking care of our veterans that were the first at the top of my list. So that was the first thing I was handling, was making sure that we were taking care of those veterans and getting them responses or assistance where they need. And that's something that my staff knows that I take very seriously, and they raise it to my awareness to let me know either they've taken care of it or they need my help in taking care of it. So it's one of those two things. Then, there's some meetings with usually my vice chairman, who's my number two, just to check in, that we do a lot of operational meetings. We also have a lot of external pieces. So I had to sign off on a document to put somebody on a detail for a great opportunity to serve outside the board. I can't say anything more about it now, but it's very exciting. And so that was also on my list of things to do. Yes, almost a scoop, but not quite. And, then, just checking to see how we're doing on our numbers to make sure we're providing those resolving those appeals for veterans, as well as checking in with my hearing team personnel, because as you know, we do a lot of virtual hearings. We had to move to that situation very quickly last year. And we monitor those very closely, because if we can't get the veteran to the hearing, we can't get a decision out the door in that case. And then there's other things that come up with our partners in the Veteran Service Organization world or with the private bar relationship. Also, the Secretary's office, there were some emails with them this morning. We're preparing, the Secretary will be over for a visit later this week, and we'll be over hosting him on a tour and then sitting down and talking with him. So there's some prep there, to do a little bit of prep for this interview. So that's a kind of a normal day. Then this afternoon, I have several other appointments and meetings, and I will be on the phone on my way home, which usually are hands-free, of course, having meetings as I commute home, and then usually for about another hour after I get home, and then I'm continuing to check email till about 8 or 9 at night, depending on when I power down for the day and go to bed.
Let me ask you, as Founders Friday, we want to know tips and techniques on how to balance it all. I think it was Gloria Steinem who said women who try to have it all sometimes miss it all. And I don't find that, actually, because I was very aware early on I didn't want to miss a darn thing. But Cheryl, how do you take care of Cheryl in the midst of taking care of a $190 million budget, 1,200 personnel, and on top of that, you have other volunteerism and you have other big jobs. How do you prioritize it, and who takes care of Cheryl?
Well, Cheryl takes care of Cheryl, but also, Cheryl's husband takes care of Cheryl. Like I said, I am married to an Air Force, now a veteran. We've been married for almost 35 years. It'll be 35 this summer. And he's very good at telling me when to power down and to stop. He also has been an executive in a defense world. He's chose to take a step back from that, and is a program manager, but he's still basically an executive. And so he's very good at advising me. But I do manage my time. I learned a long time ago, and I don't know if I learned it from my mom. It's probably likely, because as a school teacher, she would grade papers well into the night, but she would take breaks and take down times. So I do work in some workout time, some walk the dog time. That's important time. Some just taking care of me time. I factor that in. I factor in time with my family, my college. My youngest son, who's in college, is living at home, and so it's important for me to interact with him. And my husband and I raised 2 sons. One's soon to be 26, and the other one's 21.
Wow.
And maintaining engagement in their world, sitting down at dinner, routinely engaging with them. And I still, my oldest son and I, and my husband and I, and his brother talk at least once a week, usually twice, texting, do the same thing with the younger son. So, just managing it. I'm a big 1 minute, 2 minute manager. If it comes across my desk on email or it's in front of me, I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to move it on. I don't like to delegate it if I can handle it. My team sometimes prefers that I delegate it. And sometimes I will, but if I can handle it, I'm going to move it on, because then I know it's not in my head.
So that is the nugget, Cheryl. You're a 1 to 2 minute manager. You look at it. If you can deal with it, you do. Otherwise, it's kind of hard for you to delegate it, because you want to complete it and follow up on it. That's a nugget. I want to get to, and a big one, I want to get to this question. I think and our audience already knows why you're passionate about military spouse employment, and you've given us a nugget on how to manage our time. Because let's face it, Cheryl, people want to know 2 things: how to manage money and how to manage their time. And I think that if, in particular, women, because I am one, I'll never speak as a man for a man, but as far as women is concerned, and I'm 65 years old this year, those are the 2 questions: how do I manage my money and how do I manage my time? So is there any caveat or anything we have not spoken about regarding your passion for military spouse employment? Because I have 3 more big questions.
Okay, so first I'm going to say that I think time is more valuable than money. That's just my personal opinion. So I'll just give you that right up front. But second of all, what we haven't talked about is probably the reason I am so passionate. And I think I've given you some points there. But the reason I'm really passionate is when I got married at 21 years old and was starting my first year of law school, I had no idea what I was walking into as a military spouse. And after changing law schools my first year, and then, graduating from law school against their better judgment, I somehow made it through and ended up graduating with the top 25% of my class. I couldn't get a job in Omaha because even though Omaha was a big city, even then in the 80s, late 80s, everybody knew I was a military spouse and I was leaving. And so I basically faced discrimination and bias from the get-go. And I didn't really understand that. It didn't make sense to me because that wasn't how I was raised to approach it. So when we came to DC, I had opportunities to work for the federal government. I knew that private practice really wasn't my forte, and I really wanted to work for the federal government. I interviewed with several agencies, and quite frankly, VA got to me first. And I love the mission. I still love the mission today because what we do for veterans really, to me, speaks directly to how I live my life and how I want to help. But then we got orders to Germany. And Germany was the hardest, I will say. I was advised to give up my position at the board as a GS-13. And I did. And I got to Germany and I was told over and over again, you should have never resigned. You should have held the position because then we could have placed you. Because, I didn't understand that a GS-13 in Washington, D.C. is a big deal in the rest of the country and overseas. I applied for over 200 positions in Germany and I didn't get any, not one. They just didn't, no. And I was told by senior military leaders and their spouses that it was not appropriate to think about a career, that my husband's career had to come first. And I just, didn't accept that. I was fully supporting my husband's career, but I didn't understand why I couldn't have a career too. And so I decided we're just going to make, lemonade. So I looked for another opportunity to use my military spouse network, got a position as an executive secretary, a GS6. But it was that experience that really gave me a lot of, taught me how to be a 2-minute manager, actually. Gave me a lot of experience for what I now do. And quite frankly, while if you look at it on paper, it's not equivalent to being a lawyer. There were so many great things in that job I learned. And I had leaders around me who I could watch, and some were good, some were not. But you learn from any leader you have. And so we came back.
About that, Cheryl? Pardon me.
I'm sorry?
You know what I love about that? I'm a believer that no matter what job you have, it's what you make of yourself inside that job that matters, because you said you learned time management in that job, even though you were underemployed, underpaid, and you didn't use all of the skills that, my God, you had. You became the best Cheryl you could be inside that job. Bravo. I really applaud that.
And I had people at the time who didn't believe I was a lawyer. I mean, literally, they would say to me, "You're not a lawyer." And then, we ran into them in the commissary 4 years later. And, I was named judge at the board about that time. And they were like, "Oh, I guess you really were a lawyer." What I will say is I am absolutely beyond thrilled to see how much movement we have had in our military with our leadership and their spouses behind the effort for military spouse employment, and everything that's going on right now, from joining forces to everything that's happening to support our veteran military spouse and family communities is just amazing. And I am thrilled to see it. I can't say enough about all the amazing things that are happening, and I'm glad that it's happening, and I want it to continue. And I think we're really close to really hitting it out of the park.
I do too, and I would say this, that there isn't a more educated and a more committed and a more hard-charging workforce than military spouses. I know for a fact, Cheryl, that if I had this nonprofit in the civilian sector, we wouldn't be anywhere near the success we've had in 17 years. Now, We also have heard why you have a deep connect for veterans. If appropriate, and if you want this platform to talk about that deep connect you have for veterans, I offer that to you, or we could talk about that another time.
Well, I think I've hit on it. You know, it was that veteran community that rallied around my mother and I when I was 4 years old, and I saw that. And I just presumed that everybody had veterans around them all the time because that's what I had. And maybe it was the life in the late 60s and early 70s that, you know, small town America has, and I know, you know, still in my hometown and millions of hometowns around it, like it around the United States, still have those veterans there, and veterans from more current time serving. But I really felt that that community was there. And, you know, when my mother passed a couple of years ago at the age of 91, you know, the people that came to her funeral were the children of those people who had, you know, had rallied around us, because those were the people that, you know, were the ones who continued to rally around us and be lifelong friends. You know, my father-in-law was also a Korean War veteran, and I saw the same thing, you know, in northern Ohio, small town, that I saw, you know, growing up with my in-laws. And so, you know, that's really why I do what I do. Plus, you know, I've been married to a military guy for a while, and we're on year 13 of our transition out of the military. And it's still a transition. And, you know, I know what he went through in the military. We went through deployments, many things, you know, conversations about you will go to the doctor and get this documented, all those things. And I still harp on that to this day. And I advise my military spouse friends, make them go, make them document, get it on paper, get it moving. So, yeah. So that's because I think I can make an impact that way. And I hope that I continue to do so.
You know what I love about this? And I know you won't say this about yourself because you're humble. It's one of the reasons why we so wanted you on our advisory board. You have a position, you have authority, you have a network that's amazing, and you use all of that appropriately and protocol wise to help the military spouse community. I'm not sure we even know how to thank you for that. So, you know, allow us from this point on to do just that. In our nonprofits, we're built on 4 areas of focus: employment readiness, job placement with tracking, and career progression, and the ability to earn a lifelong income. You know, Cheryl, spouses don't come to us saying, I want a job. Spouses come to us to say, Deb, we want a lifelong earn. We want a lifelong income. How do we do that? Your career path is amazing. Now, you've given us one tip, but we want the secret sauce. What is the secret sauce to your success?
I think, you know, the secret sauce is, you know, I told you that one. I get them written down so I can track them and think about that. But I think the secret sauce is really not accepting what lies in front of you, or the challenge that's in front of you as a stopping point. You know, one of the things I say often when I speak is, look, I had 3 strikes against me and I didn't know it. You know, my father died by suicide. I was raised by a single mom, and then I became a military spouse. I wasn't raised to accept those as excuses. I was raised to say, okay, how do we get around that? How do we fix it? How do I go forward and figure out what I want to do and make a difference to who I want to make a difference to? So I think one of the best phrases that probably sums it up, and I don't ever know who did the quote, but it's I think of challenges as opportunities to excel.
To excel.
That's the secret sauce. If there is any secret sauce.
Let's repeat that. I want you to repeat that.
Okay, so I view challenges as opportunities to excel.
to excel. When the obstacles are in your way, when they're truly in your way, how long are they in your way?
Let's put it this way. You can go up, you can go around, you can go through, or you can go under.
I love that, Cheryl. That's another nugget. Would you
I have been
consider
known to go through. Just so
to
you
go
know.
through? Cheryl, would you consider writing for us in the MSCJ? It's a publication we have. I would love some of those secret sauces and some of those tips because I love how you framed, you had 3 strikes against you, and yet you use that to power through. And that's amazing to me. What is the biggest desire you hold for military spouses in the workforce, Cheryl?
Oh, I want military spouses to be able to have the career they want to have the career to have a career they want while, being able to support their military member and future veteran and their families. And, I think in today's world, it is easily doable. I think, quite frankly, military spouses have and are leading the way in telework. And I think we have much to learn from our military spouses. You've heard me say this, Deb. I think military spouses are the military's best kept secret, quite frankly, and it's time to share.
Well,
That's what I want.
I'm glad you said that because I wanted to know if you'd be interested in a dialogue about women in the workforce and recovery of all of the women that are now leaving the workforce. And we don't know, Cheryl, if they're coming back. And so I'm thinking of naming this Women's Workforce Recovery Program.
I love it.
Wondering if you'd like that dialogue with me.
Yes, I would. That's a major concern that I have because I've watched the numbers. I recently shared a LinkedIn article on it and saying it's up to us. It's up to us to do something about this. So I love this as an opportunity. Let's figure out how we can help because I understand why women are leaving. I've been there. I've raised 2 kids. I've dealt with that. And there's sometimes that's a choice that a woman makes, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But if that's not the choice the woman wants to make, then we have to help. And that's our job as women leaders.
And to help them come back.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Cheryl, then you and I are both on the hook for this Women's Workforce Recovery Program. Cheryl, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I do hope this is just one in a many of video series that we do for these secret sauces and for the tips for time management, for, money management, but more career management. I mean, I love this. So Cheryl, thank you very much, and we'll talk soon.
Great. Thank you, Deb. It's great to speak with you. I look forward to chatting soon. You know where I am. Just come knock on my door or virtually knock on my door.
Perfect. Thank you, Cheryl.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.